So, I wasn't sure when I would record TEW again, but, well, now I am. And I may be doing a little bit of other stuff in the background as far as, um, in favor of playing this game instead. But there's a reason behind this, and the reason is because I am trying to rebuild WWE. And I know that that might be something that is hard to believe, considering WWE is WWE and considering the fact that I have $116 million. But just to clarify, I do not actually have $116 million. I have that amount of money based on performance this month. It does not factor in the expenses until the end of the month. So that is where I may think I have that amount of money, but I don't actually have that amount of money. If I do end up with $116 million, that would be insane because I don't know that I've ever had that much of a positive performance in 1 month, but I also don't actually I could tell you the reason why we have such high pay-per-view revenue. It's the same reason why August had such high pay-per-view revenue because I did two pay-per-views in August and there were two pay-per-views in June as well. It's because we had two pay-per-views in October, the first being No Mercy and the second being Taboo Tuesday. So the pay-per-view revenues are really showing us what we have, well, was showing positive steps and the fact that I actually have maybe some that I may have gone in the right direction with adding both Insurrection and Taboo Tuesday to the pay-per-view calendar. I might scrap Super Showdown. I might scrap Super Showdown. I'm not sure. I may change it to like the tribute to the troops instead, but I'm not sure. I am gonna scrap Taboo Tuesday. Nothing against the event, but right now I'm just gonna scrap it. I didn't like having the show on Tuesday. I did not like having to book SmackDown together. Um, I did not like having to book SmackDown together with Taboo Tuesday, and I just, the event itself, it's just, I mean, I like the concept, but as far as 2004, it just didn't seem like the right concept in my opinion. But we are on a pay-per-view sellout streak. We've sold out every pay-per-view since. Oh, let's keep going back. We have sold out every pay-per-view since Insurrection in August. And even going back a little further, Vengeance, Great American Bash, Bad Blood, Judgment Day, should be Backlash next. We only have not sold out thus far, even 72,000 people in MetLife Stadium for WrestleMania 20. That was a mistake for No Way Out. That's before I actually started looking before I booked the pay-per-view, and it's same with Royal Rumble. It's before I started looking before I booked the pay-per-view. But we have out of what, 12, 14, 16 pay-per-views? Out of 16 pay-per-views, we have not sold out 3 of them. But ever since Insurrection, which was the second week in August, we have sold out every pay-per-view since then, and I feel like I've hit my stride. But also, if you look at this, Raven has offered to put over Paul London, and Chavo Guerrero has offered to put over Abyss. Abyss is now wrapped up in a feud with The Undertaker. So the idea of somebody at the level of Chavo Guerrero offering to put over Abyss, it's really going to help get Abyss a little bit closer in popularity to The Undertaker. And it would also allow Abyss to have the opportunity to get maybe closer to The Undertaker as his feud with The Undertaker has just started to kick off. Because their feud kicked off at No Mercy. So the idea of something happening, I've gotten Abyss to, I believe, the mid 50s from the high 40s, but I've gotten him up a little bit higher. Taker is in the low to mid 90s, so he's got a bit of ways to go, but also Abyss is not going to win the feud. Don't get me wrong, but at least it will make it a little bit more competitive, and maybe this experiment with Abyss will allow him to stick around as opposed to being one and none. I am still doing the experiment with Chase Stevens, but the tag team division got broken down and has been slowly but surely getting rebuilt over the last couple of months. I broke up the Bastions. I'm in the process of breaking up World's Greatest Tag Team. Um, I was hesitant to break up the Dudley Boys and Too Cool because of the lack of depth within the tag team division. I brought in the hardcore chair swinging freaks. Hardy and Mondo are the tag team champions to give the break from the Dudley Boys, and Triple X are fresh over from MLW, and they are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, which is where we're going to jump to next. That's beside the point because we're building to unification matches, but Randy Orton just won the WWE Championship, or the World Heavyweight title, and as you see, the last couple of champions, Jericho won the title in July, lost it in September. Triple H won it in September, lost it in October. It's because I'm doing the short reigns for a reason. I'm doing the short reigns. Matt Hardy and Mondo just won the belts. Sanjay Dutt just won the title from Nunzio. Kurt Angle is the longest reigning champion at 105 days. Christian won the title, finally defeating Rob Van Dam. I brought this belt in to try and give me a title for the mid-card to be able to use to build up people from the mid-card, which Paul London is probably going to drop the title soon because of what's going to happen with his feud with Raven. So he's got that. The Mae Young Classic happened earlier in the year. Royal Rumble, of course. We went over the tag team division. Rhino just defeated Edge for the United States title, and Victoria just defeated Molly Holly for the women's title. The women's championship has very little direction. I'm trying to keep the belt off of Lita and Trish. Rhino was extremely close. He was a week away from having his contract expire, but then I figured out something for him to do, and he ended up with the United States title. And now he is one of the hottest heels on SmackDown, next to, of course, the world champion, Kurt Angle, but he is one of the hottest heels on SmackDown. Whether or not he's going to keep the United States title over the long term, I don't know yet, but basically it's give people reigns, see what happens, see if you want to keep the belt on him long, and if not, make the switch. And don't be afraid of the ratings, don't be afraid of this, don't be afraid of that. Just make the switch and see what happens, because it's number one, 2004 is all about rebuilding the company. It's all about rebuilding the company, preparing them for the future, getting the company back on track. Because if you look at it, at this point, it's when the old guard was still, it was when, 2004 is when the old guard was still the main crux, the main focus. And we got a number of guys under the age of 30 or right at the age of 30. And, it's the people that we're going to use to rebuild the company with. You got to throw some stuff at the wall. I've always been a big fan of Test. I've always been a big fan of Test. And wish that, more came of Test. Christian is somebody that I've always been a fan of as well. Chase Stevens, I'm clearly a fan of, otherwise I wouldn't have him working with Evolution. Let's just see. Is there any way to see progression? Because I think his performance skills have gone up. Honestly, I think his performance skills have gone up. But apparently there's no way to see progression. I'm also bringing in Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to have him work, to try and get him to work. I've been trying to get Ken Kennedy over, working him with William Regal. Johnny Jeter's in. I will address Johnny Jeter in another video. But of course, we got the big guns. John Cena, Randy Orton. Randy just won the world title for the first time. We're gonna see what happens on that front. I got a big overarching story developing with Randy and Evolution, specifically Randy and Hunter. Batista's in that category too, but he's not under the age of 30. I believe at this point Batista should be around 35. I'm going to start using the unimportant guys or the guys that are not popular enough to be considered recognizable a little bit more often because they've only been in squash matches. They're only used in squash matches, as you can see. Surprisingly, Matt Morgan has actually got an even record, so that means that when I do book him, it's usually in a position where he's going to win or in a match where he's got to lose, because like earlier in the year when he was teaming with A-Train, I actually should probably put them back together as a team because A-Train's not been doing anything. So booking Matt Morgan with A-Train would get them both in action and give them both the opportunity to work because, again, that's, Matt Morgan hasn't really been doing anything since the summertime. He sat out most of July, most of August, and most of September. And at this point, it's getting to the point where Matt Morgan would just be better off going back to developmental. But, you also got Jeff Hardy, who has been struggling. Garrison Cade, who I found something for him to do. Rene Dupree, as I talked about in a previous video. Rey Mysterio, he's always on the brink. Rhino's on the brink. Edge is on the brink. So I got a number of guys, specifically on SmackDown. Especially on SmackDown. I got a number of guys, especially on SmackDown. Paul London has broken through. Just to, fixate on him for a second. He's gone up 10 throughout the year. Can't tell who I'm a fan of. Edge has gone up tremendously this year. He's breaking up 80. He's breaking at the 80s near the end of the year, going up from 68. Randy Orton and John Cena have jumped tremendously, especially John Cena. I know offhand John Cena's jumped tremendously, and a lot of these guys will be future champions, future world champions. John Cena's gone up 30 in this year. John Cena's gone up 30 in 8 months, or 10 months, sorry. That's insane. But John, Randy, Edge, Paul London, Dave, Batista, Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho's only 33, Batista's 35, he's still got a future. Shawn Michaels and Triple H are still factored in, Booker T's factored in, Taker, Kane, etc. But all this year is rebuilding and getting new guys to go into the the title picture. I mean, look at Batista, for example. He's in the mid-80s now. He started in the 60s. And that's all because of his association with Evolution. It is all because of his association with Evolution. And the God's honest truth is, it is just because of his association with Evolution. But also look at where he was in the early part of the year, and look at his consistency now. His ratings have gotten better. Ignore the match with JT Hyatt, but his ratings have gotten better. I don't know why the feud with Booker T was more of a positive effect on Batista than it was on Booker T, but that's beside the point. Of course, we got guys like that, but also Chavo's feud with Eddie helped Chavo, and now in turn it will help Abyss. As Abyss is 30, so he's got a bright future ahead of him. And I'm looking forward to the draft next year because I'm going to be doing a lot more with the draft next year to try and shake things up a bit for SmackDown and Raw, because I'm not going to say that things are stagnating, but because they're not, but I'm excited to see what happens next with this, and, well, I'll just point it out. One thing I didn't point out was this. John Cena's first real attempt at the world title, and it netted him a 98. It netted him a 98. Rhino's first attempt at the upper mid card, an 80. Chavo with Eddie, 86. Shelton and Charlie Haas, 77. I didn't even talk about World's Greatest Tag Team. Taker got an 81 with Mordecai. If there's anything I could say is I'm super excited to keep playing and see what happens next with WWE 2004 because the game keeps me excited and I finally found my footing with TEW 2020 because of WWE 2004. And, there's nothing better to say than I'm rebuilding WWE for the future and giving myself some people to build the company around for the next decade, decade and a half. And when the new era comes in, when the new era comes in, it's something that it's going to be insane to see because it's unexpected. It's going to be exciting because you're going to see everyone win their first world titles. And that's part of the reason why I love this game is because you could see your title history form over the years that you play the game. But either way, the one thing I will say wrapping up is that the title reigns will go longer as the rebuild starts subsiding because I'll even point out Rob Van Dam held the title for most of 2004, but the title reigns will start extending out and expanding as the year goes on and as the rebuild starts coming to an end, once I start finding security with the champions that hold the titles currently. Or once I start finding security with the champions that do hold the titles. You know what I mean? Because 90% of the time, I do prefer longer title reigns to shorter title reigns. But right now, shorter title reigns make more sense. But either way, with that being said, I do hope that you enjoyed this little expose inside WWE 2004. It is a series that I used to enjoy doing, and it's one of them that I retired once I got burned out from TEW. But now that I have recharged the batteries and have found that love for the game once again, it is something that you might be seeing a little bit more often because sometimes it is just nice to look into TEW rather than go through the shows and just book. Deep dive, I guess is the right way to put it. But either way, let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on games like this, and if you have any suggestions or questions about this game or this series, let me know down in the comment section below. As I am wrapping up and signing off, till next time, I will see you again soon.